Piers, in the spirit of bringing us together, I want to send Wajid a gift after the show. I don't know have his mailing address, but I just wrote "You tried" and I signed it on a piece of paper here.
Did you write it, or was it in Russian? Do it in Russian for me. It'll be more authentic.
I admire that.
If there was an Oscars ceremony for playing whataboutery, you, my friend, are the Daniel Day-Lewis.
I mean, I think we just saw a prime example of a symptom of Trump derangement syndrome. When someone is asked a question about what's wrong with Joe Biden's cognitive ability and now his metastatic cancer, we start talking about Donald Trump.
The White House staff lied, the media lied, the Jake Tappers of the world lied, and that's a very serious problem. I want to be as fair and charitable as I can. James Comey is a huge weirdo with artistic pretensions.
Was there anything in the back of your mind that said, maybe I just shouldn't post this?
Yeah, no, literally nothing.
This is horseshit, Michael.
There is no scandal. There is no evidence of any scandal whatsoever. It's just more conservatives demonstrating again that they know nothing about medicine.
David, were those the videos that Russia paid you to make, or was that your original independent?
It's because everyone could see it right in front of our face, and they told us not to see. So there's multiple layers of conspiracy here.
We were lied to. We were lied to by the White House doctor. That White House doctor should probably lose his medical license.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So as you can see on that intro, we got a fun one coming in. And I know it's Monday. It's Memorial Day, so I'm off. So I'm doing a Piers Morgan debate because I enjoy doing these. So y'all buckle up for that. Before we get into it, though, I need y'all to do me a favor. Smash that like button if you don't mind. I would really appreciate if y'all could do that. Subscribe if you're new around here and you want to stay up to date with how you're being manipulated by the corporate press. My regular videos, we go over politics, we discuss the news and how you're being manipulated and all that good stuff. So y'all make sure and check those out. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. That is the #1 best way to help me spread the word, if you will. Also, if you would be so inclined, push that join button right below the video, click it, sign up, become a member, help me deliver that news to you guys. But without any further ado, let's just jump right into this thing.
As Kamal said, the last time not the White House, but Biden's people have come out and said the last time he had a PSA test was 2014 for fear it would be raised and raise concerns. I just don't believe that. Why would a man in his 70s not have another PSA test for 10, 11 years?
So I know we love conspiracy theories on this show, but let me just say first and foremost, as a father of a stage 4 cancer survivor, my daughter had a full liver transplant. When I left my daughter, she was perfectly healthy, 2 years old, 6 years ago, and then she had some bumps. My wife took her to the emergency room, and then they found out that she had stage 4 cancer. That's how it happens. So for anyone who is suffering from cancer, anyone who has a lost one, who died from cancer, sometimes it creeps up. That's #1 for people to know, and hopefully people will know more about cancer as this Trump administration has cut 31% of cancer research in the first 100 days. Just want people to know that. Hopefully no one has to go through this. We went through it. Joe Biden right now has stage 4 cancer that has metastasized to the bone.
Sorry, with respect, Jai, let me stop you. You're distracting. You're very good at distracting. We're not a show that
No, not at all. I'm trying to inform your audience.
I'm not a show that loves conspiracy theories. I love talking about the reality behind conspiracy theories. Often conspiracy theories, as we've discovered in the last few years, turn out to be correct. So I'm prepared to give everything a fair hearing.
That is not true.
Well, they sometimes they do, right? Some conspiracy theories turn out to be true. And then the people who call them conspiracy theories sound like idiots. I don't like promoting wild, nonsensical conspiracy theories. I don't think it's a conspiracy theory to have expected a president of the United States in his 70s to have had a basic test that all men over the age of about 55 are encouraged to have on a regular basis. I don't believe them. And I think that is
and
if it turns out to be that
you might agree with me on this.
Go on.
You actually might agree with me on this. So here, let me just finish. Joe Biden is a very old man. Breaking news. He's 82 years old. I agree with you that Joe Biden should not have run or even announced that he was run for president, right? He was supposed to be a one-term president. I believe Joe Biden did immense damage to the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris by announcing at a very late stage that he wouldn't run, and he was pressured not to run. I think he made a huge mistake. He's 82 years old. Now, I'm all for fair and balance. And I don't know, I'm going to take my Republican counterparts, my MAGA counterparts out there at their word right now. Let's have fair and balance. I'm all here. Let's release all the public records. Let's release all the health records of President Biden, who is not president. Also, let's also focus on the man who's currently president. Donald Trump. He's the oldest person to ever be elected president. He's about to turn 79 years old. I want the health records of Joe Biden. I also want the health records of Donald Trump. Specifically, I want the records of his failed assassination attempt. You know, the bullet that grazed the ear. That is very traumatic for anybody, especially a 78-year-old man. Release all the health records. Number one. Number two.
Wow, you're sounding
Donald
like
Trump,
a man.
Sorry,
Vijaya. You are sounding
50-50.
With respect,
Let's do 50-50.
With respect, you are beginning to sound like a mad conspiracy theorist.
Okay, first of all, I just want to say right quick, like, he's comparing apples to cheeseburgers right here, talking about his 2-year-old had cancer versus Joe Biden. Like, oh, what, we shouldn't have looked or something like that? Like, come on. Nobody expects a 2-year-old to have cancer. Come on with that one. And then, hey, let's just shift this to Trump. Let's release the records. I totally agree. Let's release the records. But, you know, it's kind of clear to see that Donald Trump is doing way better than Joe Biden as far as health and cognition. But let's keep going.
Wait, no. I want the release of records.
What do you think?
Wait.
You don't think he was shot in the ear? You don't believe that? What are you getting at?
I agree he was shot in the ear.
What mad conspiracy are you pursuing?
I agree he was shot in the ear. We do not have the health records. Those health records were not made public. I agree he was shot in the ear. I was on your show. He was shot. He survived. Release the public health records of Donald Trump. Release the public health records of Joe Biden. I want to remind everyone, the oldest man to be elected is president right now, Donald Trump. Who did I say was cover-up? I'm saying, let's be honest. I'm taking you at your word.
I was trying to establish. Are you saying that you are agreeing with your MAGA counterparts that there was a cover-up on Joe Biden's ill health?
People do not trust the establishment. People do not trust the Democratic establishment. People do not trust the Republican establishment. I want Americans to be informed. I agree with you. Joe Biden is a very old man. He's 82 years old. I agree with you. He should not run again. I agree with you that the Democratic establishment probably hit his decline. We saw it in real time. But what I'm also seeing right now is unfair and unbalanced coverage, because President Biden ain't president. Donald Trump is president. 78 years old, about to be 79, has never been on a bike, talks about groceries, like he invented the word, he's brought it back.
Well,
you're
steaming off.
I'm sorry.
Well, Jai, listen, you're going off on one of you're very good at distracting. You're very good at distracting, but let me bring in.
Donald Trump has fallen asleep 3 times publicly in the past 3 weeks. He's 79 years old.
Donald Trump has the energy, as everybody knows, whether you love him or hate him, he's got the energy of a 30-year-old, right? So what? Let's just not go down.
Tell him to ride a bike.
Yeah, Joe Biden.
Tell him to ride a bike.
Joe Biden was basically
Biden rode a bike
walking
last
zombie.
week. Tell him to ride a bike.
All right, let me bring in Dave.
Okay, you can tell with that smirk on his face, Watch Your Hat knows he's lying about this. He knows there was a cover-up. As a matter of fact, he helped cover that up for the entirety of Joe Biden's campaign, if you will. He was right there pushing Joe Biden along, knowing the cognitive decline, knowing the issues we would have coming up. The doctors, they covered all that stuff up. We know they covered that stuff up. We know that there was no way that could go undetected, for crying out loud. Like, come on, people. The President of the United States gets some of the most vigorous medical exams of anybody, like for the safety of the president himself, for the country, blah, 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 blah. You name it. These people are just lying. We know they're lying. Now they're trying to gaslight. It is what it is. What are we going to do about it, y'all? But let's keep going.
Destiny.
So you weren't paid by Russia. Okay.
Look,
good to know.
if you want to ask him on your own show and ask him those questions again and again and again, go and do it on your own show, would you? Let me bring in Destiny. Destiny.
Fair enough.
Destiny, I do think this matters. Do you?
I'm going to be honest. I haven't followed the news recently, and I lose track of this sometimes. Right now, who's the president? Is it Trump or is it Biden? Because every single day I turn the news on, Trump is talking about Biden, the conservatives are talking about Biden, everybody is talking about Biden. It feels like that is the only thing that these people can ever talk about, because they're trying to take away attention from Trump's disastrous econ policy,
there was a major
from the utter
involving
failures
Biden,
that he's
like 3
running
days
into
ago.
over and over and over again with all of the courts, with the insane arguments that they're putting in front of the Supreme Court, trying to get rid of things like birthright citizenship. But for some reason, we're talking about Biden again. Also, it's no
Because there was a
surprise
major
the conservatives
scandal.
are once again, there is no scandal. There is no evidence of any scandal whatsoever. It's just more conservatives demonstrating
scandal-
again that they know
would
nothing
you
about
let me
medicine.
There's no
or anything
evidence
about
of a
cancer. No, you don't need to
scandal.
explain anything
The
while
man
I'm giving
was
it.
not
While I'm giving my
competent
answer
to
to
be
Pierre's
president
question.
of the United
You say
States.
the man wasn't competent to be president. I'm curious. Can you show me a single time when Joe Biden sat down and had EOs brought to him and explained to him that he'd never seen before, like we see Trump sign on an almost daily basis? One example of
Well,
that.
they didn't bring them to Joe Biden because an auto
Exactly.
pen
You have
did
no
it.
examples of that. No, you have
Yeah,
no
there
examples
actually
of that.
was
Donald
reporting
Trump
that
is
he didn't
worse.
know it
That
was the
Donald
EOs
Trump
he was
is
signing.
worse. That's great, but you can see videos of Biden explaining
Destiny, let me
what's
ask
in
you a
the
question.
EOs and walking over to
Videotape Joe
sign
Biden because he was
hold on, let me
ruling on
finish.
it.
Let me finish my answer. For all of these people that are so concerned about Biden's health, everybody got so offended when Elon Musk was asked about his ketamine abuse. So they said we had no right into the minds, the drug use, or the medical records of people that might be
Elon Musk
involved
isn't
in
the president.
major parts of the government. That he was involved in dismantling huge parts of the government. He was the president's right-hand man. Just right there, we just heard another pivot, another abdication of responsibility. The reality is conservatives know nothing about medicine. All of you guys on here are saying it's totally common to test for prostate cancer past 50. It's not. Past 70, it's not recommended. Believe it or not, and I know in the movies and in the TV shows, it seems like you can test for every single thing at every point in time. You can't test for every single thing at every point in time. You don't do that
Just
because you
think
get a lot of false
prostate cancer
positives.
He's the president of the
How long
United
does that
States.
PSA test take you? When you do that PSA test annually,
It doesn't
Piers,
matter.
how long does
Over
that
the
take
age
you?
of
Is that a big
over the
problem
age
for
It
the doctor?
literally
doctor.
takes.
You
It
can-
takes.
listen, hey,
Literally
where's
takes
the fact
3
checker?
minutes.
Over the age of 70, you do not test men for prostate cancer. It's just not recommended. You can't test
do you
for
test
every
It
for
single
is if
disease.
you're the
Had
president of the
cancer.
United States and you've
So the
already had a
president is somehow
test in
exempted from
2014.
ordinary human conditions? No, of course not. You can't test for every single disease at every single point of your life. Unfortunately, you just can't do that.
Okay.
Okay, so I guess that's the excuse. Now that he's coming out and he's saying this, all of a sudden, you can't test for anything once you get over a certain age. Come on, dude. That's just blatantly insane. You can't test for stuff. Like, sure, I understand they wouldn't just randomly test for anything, but prostate cancer, they test for that. They recommend you start testing for that at 45. Do you think somebody that's 81 is not going to get tested for that? I mean, sure, you can make up and say whatever you want. Oh, it's not recommended. However, we're talking about the President of the United States. For goodness sakes, this guy needs to be in top health. Plus, we had an annual report every single year Joe Biden was in office. Hey, he's in perfect health. Now, I understand they might not test for certain things, but, with a guy with having that cancer metastasized to the bone, for crying out loud, that means he had that for years on years upon years. That's just crazy. And then, it's no scandal. I love that excuse. There's no scandal here because they don't test for those things. Okay, sure. Go right ahead with that one if you want to believe that. But, we're not going to buy into that because it was cover up after cover up after cover up after cover up with the Biden administration. And all of that, those cover ups are finally being uncovered, if you will. And that's why he's in the news, folks. Let's keep going.
Stations be very revealing. But Jar hat on massive distraction technique, and Destiny basically saying old people shouldn't have tests that might save their lives.
Just to be clear, go to
interesting
Google,
arguments.
look up when do you test for prostate cancer. You don't test after. You can Google it right now. Put it on the program. Everybody can type it in the
Are you
PSA
arguing,
test.
are you arguing
PSA
that they
test literally
shouldn't have
takes 10
tested
seconds.
Joe
You
Biden,
literally
who
have
now
an
has
inject- you literally have a blood
metastatic
test.
cancer in
It's a
his
sim-
bones? Are you arguing they shouldn't have tested
It's a
him?
blood test. I bet the President of the United States probably has a weekly blood test. Probably. I'm guessing.
What do you think a blood test is? Do you think you can test for every single possible thing in your blood?
It
Every
is
single
so
possible
easy
ailment,
to
every
test
single
for
possible-
PSA. Your PSA
Then why do they
literally is
recommend
one
the screening
thing.
for it?
I just love how Destiny says, Google it. Just go ahead and Google it. Put it on the show right now. Well, I went ahead and did that, right? He's kind of somewhat ish. I see where he's getting his information from. I'm not going to say he's correct. They say the recommended ages are from 55 to 69. It doesn't state anywhere that you shouldn't test somebody, you shouldn't run a PSA test on anybody over the age of 69. It doesn't say that at all. It says if you're at higher risk, like, you have family history of prostate cancer, blah, 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 you should do this. But don't listen to me. I'm not a doctor. Don't listen to them. They are not doctors. That is for sure. Ask your doctor if you have any concerns over these issues. Of course, always do that. I am just stating factually what Google told me or what Grok told me, and I cross-reference that with Google, as a matter of fact. And they say the exact same thing because that's where Grok gets its information from, but that's neither here nor there. I just love how the argument is, well, he wouldn't have tested, so there's no scandal here at all. Of course it's a scandal. Of course they're going to test the President of the United States. For crying out loud, what are we even arguing here? They tried to hide just about everything to do with Joe Biden's health from the American people, for goodness sakes, right? All the auto pen stuff. As a matter of fact, he didn't sign many executive orders at all. I love those arguments. Oh, well, you can't show one where Joe Biden didn't know. That's not true. That is not true at all. We had several interviews with congressmen, as a matter of fact, with Mike Johnson. And Mike Johnson was asking the president, why did you pull, I forget exactly what it was. I think it was something having to do with the Border Patrol, pulling Border Patrol off of the border to go do asylum cases or something like that. He asked Joe Biden directly, why did you sign that executive order? And Joe Biden said, I'd never done that.
And I said, Mr. President, thanks for the moments. This is very important. I got some big national security things I need to talk to you about that I've heard and I think you know, and what do we do? But first, real quickly, Mr. President, can I ask you a question? I cannot answer this from my constituents in Louisiana. Sir, why did you pause LNG exports to Europe? Like, I don't understand, liquefied natural gas is in great demand by our allies. Why would you do that? Because you understand, we just talked about Ukraine. You understand you're fueling Vladimir Putin's war machine because they got to get their gas from him, And he looks at me, stunned with this, and he said, I didn't do that. And I said, Mr. President, yes, you did. It was an executive order, 3 weeks ago. And he goes, no, I didn't do that. And he's arguing with me. I said, Mr. President, respectfully, could I go out here and ask your secretary to print it out? We'll read it together. You definitely did that. And he goes, oh, you talk about natural gas. Yes, sir. He said, no, you misunderstand. He said, what I did is I signed this thing we're gonna conduct a study on the effects of LNG. I said, no, you're not, sir. You paused it. I know, I have the export terminals in my state. I talked to those people this morning. This is doing massive damage to our economy, national security. It occurred to me, Barry, he was not lying to me. He genuinely did not know what he had signed. And I walked out of that meeting with fear and loathing because I thought, we're in serious trouble. Who is running the country? I don't know who put the paper in front of him, but he didn't know.
I mean, there is instances of this. Destiny is just either misinformed or he's lying. But let's keep going.
Just call me bonkers, Michael Knowles. I don't mind what you call me. But the idea that a man who was the director of the FBI, the top lawman in America, was wandering along a beach and saw some seashells with the numbers 8647. And he had absolutely no idea before putting it on his Instagram that this might be interpreted as meaning a desire to kill President Trump. Here's his explanation on MSNBC.
Was there anything in the back of your mind that said, maybe I just shouldn't post this?
Yeah, no, literally nothing, because it seemed entirely innocent and clever to me. I have never, and actually still don't associate 86 with violence, but because I heard that some folks were, whether they do that reasonably or not, I don't want any part of it. And so that's why I took it down from my Instagram.
This is horseshit, Michael. He's just lying. He's lying.
Look, I want to be as fair and charitable as I can. James Comey is a huge weirdo with artistic pretensions. Do you remember when the Robert Mueller investigation came out? James Comey took this bizarre photo of himself in the woods looking up at the sky. So I don't want to understate the chance as to a weirdo. However, you have to take the context here in. If he says, well, 86, to get rid of somebody, that doesn't imply violence. Okay, maybe he's just kind of ignorant and obtuse, but within the context of President Trump, who was nearly murdered twice, one time with a bullet hitting his ear, coming within a 20th of an inch of blowing his brains out on stage. When you have the entire Democratic Party, all the way up to Joe Biden, who predicated his presidential campaign on the notion that Donald Trump posed an existential threat to the country, that is to say, justifies his assassination. Within that context, Comey had to know. Either Comey is the dumbest person on earth, or he knew what he was doing. And I want to be charitable. I think he kind of knew.
I don't want to be charitable. Sorry, Mujahid. This is bullshit. And you know it is, don't you? Come on, just admit it.
So,
watch this. You're not going to be surprised where it goes.
If MAGA does believe that James Comey was intentional in posting that an 86 means kill, then like I said in your last answer, I want everything to be fair and balanced. I'm trying to bring people together. Like you said in the last one, release every single information about Joe Biden's public health.
Do you believe James Comey when he says, do you believe him when he Instagrammed the picture of 8647 for the former FBI director had no idea what that meant?
You're going to like my answer. You're going to like my answer. I'm fair and balanced here. If you truly believe, and if my co-panelists here, my MAGA co-panelists believe that James Comey intended that 86 meant to kill Joe Biden and you want to investigate him, I say fine. But then you also have to investigate Jack Posobiec. Oh, you know, the MACA dude who literally sold merchandise while Joe Biden was president.
I'm not talking about him, stop the distraction.
Wait a second.
Focus on the
Stop being a
stories.
hypocrite. If you think 86 means to kill, then you have to prosecute Jack Posobiec, who was making money off of merchandise that said 86.46 while Joe Biden was president. Then you have to also investigate Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz, let me finish. Matt Gaetz said 86, not Democrats. Matt Gaetz said 86 Republicans, including Mitch McConnell, right? So, and Kevin Johnson. So, maybe if you want to prosecute James Comey, I'm being fair. If you want to prosecute James Comey, you got to prosecute Jack Posobiec.
But once again, Majah, you're not answering my simple question. Do you believe Comey or not? Yes or no?
I do not believe that James Comey and the overwhelming majority of people who liked that thought that it meant killing Donald Trump. The person who tried to kill Donald Trump was a Republican, a Trump supporter, a gun nut. It means 86. If anyone's worked in restaurants or is a waiter, 86 means to cancel an order. So if you believe 86 means to kill, then you got to prosecute Jack Posobiec and Matt Gaetz.
The reason that's not an apt comparison is because we're not saying in all contexts 86 always means you want to murder somebody.
Yeah,
we're saying that in the context of Donald Trump,
you guys are getting desperate.
Literally murdered twice.
You guys are getting desperate. Donald Trump is underwater, Michael and David.
In that case,
you guys are getting really
desperate. You guys keep bringing up that they tried to kill Donald Trump twice. You know what else happened twice? He got impeached twice as well. So maybe 86 could be the third impeachment attempt.
All right, Dave Rubin.
I mean, they could be right about that, but they could be wrong. It's not the question of what the 8647 actually meant. It's the question of, did James Comey know exactly what in the hell he was doing when he put those pebbles in the sand? Because everybody knows that you're not just going to randomly, as the former FBI director, be walking down a beach and somebody randomly places 8647 nice and pretty in some stones in the sand right in the direct path of where you're going to be walking. Somebody that we know has gone after Donald Trump. Somebody that we know has lied vigorously about Donald Trump. Somebody that we know despises Donald Trump. Somebody that we know has TDS. Stage 5 terminal TDS, for crying out loud. It's an epidemic that is spreading rapidly through the country that something needs to be done about, but we still have no cure for said TDS. We don't know what it is. You try to give these people facts. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all. Nothing can cure the symptoms of TDS, for crying out loud. But that's not the question, is it? That's not the question. We know that James Comey, he's playing coy. He's playing dumb. He's playing the idiot. He's playing the court jester. Oh, I just happened to stumble across this cute little stone phrase that said 8647. I had no idea what it meant. Oh, and when I found out it could have meant violence, I took it down from my Instagram. Right. Do we believe this? No, we don't believe this. We know people have Trump derangement syndrome. Now, I mean, watch out. And Destiny there, they make a good point. Hey, look, if we're going to go after James Comey for putting 8647 in the sand with stones, for crying out loud, and playing coy about it, you know, maybe we should look into Jack Posobiec for putting 8646, for crying out loud. Maybe we should, maybe we shouldn't. Hey, I don't know. Let's be fair and balanced about it, huh? How about that? If we're going to be fair and balanced about this, and we're going to play a little bit of whataboutism, how about we sick the FBI on James Comey and all these people that went after the Trump administration, or went after Donald Trump, went after Donald Trump's lawyers for giving him advice and filling out paperwork on his behalf. How about let's go after the people that went after Donald Trump? Oh, that would only be fair, right? Only be fair if we go and arrest all these folks, wouldn't it? Wouldn't it? No, but no, they would cry foul over that. You gotta love the hypocrisy and the double standard and the gaslighting, because it's all wrapped up in a little bow and served to you on Piers Morgan. Let's keep going.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file. So,
Wajahat, there we have a wide-ranging conspiracy theory quashed by Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, unequivocally. I presume you, as a man who abhors conspiracy theories, unless you're spreading them about assassination attempts, you would like to immediately applaud them for clearing this up.
All I got to say is good luck, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, because never go full conspiracy theorist. This is going to be MAGA eating its own tail. You know the people are really pissed off, Piers? Not me, MAGA. Because MAGA wants the public records of the Epstein files. They were promised it. And now Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who promoted the conspiracy about the deep state, right, and pro-January 6th, now they are the deep state, head of the FBI and the deputy. And guess what? MAGA is pissed off. And the reason why, probably, they don't want to release these records is Jeffrey Epstein, according to his own words, you've heard the tapes, he said, who was his closest friend? Donald Trump. Who did he party with? Donald Trump. Who's on the flight logs?
Oh my God,
Donald
you're
Trump.
about to spread the worst conspiracy theory of them all. Wow.
What? No, they're friends. You heard,
wow. Well, John, are you suggesting Donald Trump killed Jeffrey Epstein? Is that what you're doing, having announced you hate conspiracy theories?
You said that.
Is that your position?
No, I think he killed himself. I think Dan and Kash Patel are actually honest. I think he killed himself. But MAGA's pissed off right now because MAGA was promised full release of the public files. Pam Bondi hasn't done it. Kash Patel hasn't done it. Dan Bongino hasn't done it. If you're paying attention to MAGA right now, they're divided right now, and they're going after Dan and Kash, and this is going to be a huge problem for MAGA. Not for the rest of us, not for the normies.
Hold on, I thought I was
the normies. I wouldn't be quite so hasty with that self-description.
We're representative of MAGA. Can we get in on this?
Yes.
He is right about that. There's a lot of people that were just in disbelief. They were pissed off at Dan Bongino and Kash Patel when they come out and said that. And they were furiously looking through the records of social media posts, just going over, oh, when did they say that he didn't kill himself? And they couldn't find anything, as a matter of fact. Like, I saw several podcasts about that, and it was just hilarious because, like, sure, we can look at the situation and see, oh, hang on, yeah, he probably didn't kill himself, but when you get the guys that you trust put in the positions of power that they need to be put in to obliterate the deep state, which, you know, I don't buy into his assessment that they are the deep state. There was a news article saying they are the deep state. No, I'm sorry. That's not the deep state. The head of the FBI, no, that's not the deep state. Sure, they could be part of the deep state, but those two, no, I'm sorry. But, you know, they just don't believe it. Look, hey, I'm starting to lean toward that side. I've seen, you know, Steven Crowder did an entire video essay on this where he tried like hell, fought like hell, if you will, to try to replicate that whole situation. Right? He even put a collar on his neck and put this tensioner with a measurement tool attached to it, and he tried to get enough force on his neck to try to do it. He set up the whole situation. He set up a jail cell with the same type of beds. It was a whole elaborate thing, and he could not even get anywhere close to producing enough force on his neck. Now, I understand he's not actually trying to kill himself, and, you know, he's not going to do anything to actually harm himself, so it is what it is. But even still, you know, there's a lot of questions around this, and we need some answers to this, and we're not getting those answers. And that's what MAGA's pissed off about, because we're just getting, oh, he didn't kill himself. We're not getting, like, come on, why was all this, all the questions we have? But let's keep going, because we'll work through this.
I'm not going after Dan and Kash. I don't know Kash personally. I know Dan pretty well, and I trust Dan. I don't think Dan would lie. You got to pay attention not only to what Dan and Kash said, but what they didn't say. They didn't say that Jeffrey Epstein's suicide was all on the up and up. They didn't say that Jeffrey Epstein didn't have connections to intelligence agencies. They didn't say that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't permitted to kill himself. The fact that you had malfunctions of multiple security cameras and multiple guards not showing up, they didn't say that Jeffrey Epstein didn't, as Alan Dershowitz suggested the other day, pay the guards off to allow him to kill himself. There's still all sorts of questions about it. There's very legitimate questions, unless you, Wadjet, think that the Jeffrey Epstein case was just open and shut and there's no reason to dig any deeper. Obviously, there are very legitimate questions about it. But what Dan and Cash said can be true, and there can still be much more to learn about the corruption that involves very, very high levels of government.
Well, the biggest conspiracy theory, which I think happens to be true, is that there were clearly a lot of very high-profile people who knew what Jeffrey Epstein was up to and have never been held to account. And it is completely ridiculous that the only person languishing in a prison in America for any connection to do with Epstein is Ghislaine Maxwell, his madame, who helped him facilitate a lot of this abuse and is quite rightly serving a very long prison sentence. But no man has ever, who was participating with him, has ever been brought to justice. I mean, that is ridiculous. I want to ask you, Destiny, about something that's just been dropping, which is about Bruce Springsteen told a UK crowd that Donald Trump was unfit and treasonous. Trump responded in his normal, calm, self-effacing manner, called him a dried-out prune of a rocker on Truth Social. Highly overrated Bruce Springsteen, not a talented guy, just a pushy, obnoxious jerk. And then he posted this video.
Now, I got to interject right quick. It has been widely reported that Bruce Springsteen actually was paying homage to Joe Biden when he fell on stage like that. Let's keep going.
And my question, Destiny, is can you watch that with a straight face? And it appears you can. Did you not find that even vaguely funny?
Every time I see a picture of the 9% body fat, 180-pound, rippling muscled Trump, because of the very real medical report we saw that assessed his physical condition, I'm in awe of him. I do agree with what Bruce Springsteen said, though. And I think the courts are basically reaffirming this, that Donald Trump is doing everything he can to destroy rule of law in this country. And that's why we are so desperate to talk about literally anything else, even if that's the prostate of the former president, than what Trump's current behavior.
I've got a question for you, just to see whether your own health and whether your own Trump derangement syndrome is at an advanced aggressive stage. And it's this. Do you give Trump any credit for reducing the number of illegal people coming over the southern border by 96% in 3 months? Yes or no?
It's a strange question.
Not really. It's a very simple.
It kind of is.
It's a very simple, factual question.
If you had cancer of the brain and I cut your head off, would you give me credit for getting rid of the cancer? I mean, wow. I guess. I mean, illegal immigration is definitely... You don't think it's an achievement? Illegal immigration has definitely decreased. All of our tourism has decreased. If part of the reason why the immigration or illegal immigration has decreased is because nobody wants to come to this country anymore because they can see it's turning into a massive shit show, I mean, does he get credit for that? I guess, sure.
Piers, can I defend it?
Yes, you can.
I think it has to do with the foreign terrorist
listen, as a...
I don't think even, to be honest with you, Dave, it doesn't even have to be defended. Obviously,
it doesn't have to be defended.
Obviously, it's a stunning achievement, which everybody should say is a great achievement.
I'm a laminated, card-carrying member of MAGA. I go to the meetings with Knowles. He brings the cigars. I bring the tequila. We talk about these people. Look, I can easily defend
just like
the border.
I
can easily defend the trade deals. Right? I can easily defend what he's doing in the Middle East. I can easily defend what he's doing with Russia, Ukraine. I can easily defend what he's doing as it relates to getting wokeness out of the schools and blowing apart the Department of Education.
Wants to host a debate on
that, defend all of those things very easily.
Any one of these topics, Dave, all of these
Can you defend this, Dave Rubin?
The entire world market is shuddering.
Dave Rubin.
The bonds market is shuddering as a result of these things. Nobody agrees.
Well, actually, the stock market is actually the stock market's actually doing fine. Now everyone's calmed down and stopped shaking and screaming. It's actually fine.
All the losses were erased.
Dave Rubin, quick question though. The really big debate.
To be clear, the markets are not fine, but go ahead.
Well, they are. Dave Rubin, straightforward question. The most contentious thing of all, is the boss, Bruce Springsteen, overrated?
Yes, he's overrated. First off, I'm a Long Island guy, so you go to Billy Joel as the default. But any day, you know who I will take over Bruce Springsteen any day? About a month ago, I had the honor of interviewing 90-year-old Frankie Valli, and that guy is still out there performing.
Yeah, but his voice is gone.
He's doing it every night on the road.
Yeah, but his voice is gone. The boss, I mean, come on, with Jarhat, can we find common ground?
Okay, what we just saw from Destiny right there is one key symptom of TDS. This is how you can kind of figure out if you need to talk to a doctor about your Trump derangement syndrome. If Donald Trump has some sort of achievement that is good for the whole of the country, and you cannot bring yourself to give him credit for doing so, you might have Trump derangement syndrome, folks. That is what he just did. And then he goes on to say, just lie, as a matter of fact, about, all tourism is down, as if coming into this country illegally is tourism. But where he's getting that statistic from is what the press does and the polling places do, is they'll manipulate statistics, because tourism goes up and down throughout the year, right? We have people vacationing to the country at, different rates throughout the year, if you will. Like, not a lot of people come in at certain points of the year. So what the polling places did and what the corporate press, they run with those numbers because, tourism is down. Donald Trump is destroying the country. Well, they took the numbers from a certain quarter and gave you that. Look, tourism is down. It's bad. But that's manipulative. You got to look at that year over year, for crying out loud. Of course, it's going to go up and down throughout the year. But once again, that's the corporate press. That's the media manipulating you into believing a lie, right? And that's all the clips on that. So I'm just going to ramble on from here on out. But, if you cannot give Donald Trump credit for where it's due, as a matter of fact, for cleaning up the border, because we were gaslit for years under Joe Biden. We need legislation. We need Congress to act. We need this. We need that. We need more border patrol. We need more immigration, blah, 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 blah. We need this and this and this. No, we just wanted the border secure. What does Donald Trump do? He comes in and immediately those numbers just tank, just fall right off by the wayside. All Donald Trump had to do is allow Border Patrol to do their jobs. That's it. That's all. Do your job. That's it. Joe Biden was restricting the Border Patrol, CBP, all of that, Homeland Security, restricting them from doing their job, which allowed terrorists and all kind of drug smugglers and human smugglers to come into the country and operate with impunity, just about. I mean, sure, they caught and deported some people. Yes, Joe Biden deported people from this country, violent criminals. Sure, he did do that. Not nearly to the extent that Donald Trump is, and not nearly to a good enough extent that we can say he deported people, because it was so minimal that it's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. The numbers were insane. The numbers were record-breaking. Look, we went from record-breaking high numbers to record-breaking low numbers. I mean, border crossings are at their lowest since the 1960s. That's just an insane achievement, if you ask me. Just an outright insane achievement. And now, what are we getting in the federal court system? Democrats destroying themselves outright, which is what we're going to be talking about on the next video. As a matter of fact, we're covering Judge Dugan, because I haven't covered that really heavily yet. And there's been a couple of clips out, so y'all make sure and stay tuned for that. But yeah, destroying themselves outright on the national stage by taking and getting on the side of the criminal aliens, the violent criminals, the drug traffickers, the human smugglers, all of that, getting on the side of these people, standing up for their rights, and not standing up for the rights of their own constituents and the safety of the American people. It's insane what these federal judges are doing. No, you cannot deport violent criminals. That's what they are telling you. Even though it's an 80-20 issue. 80% of America. This is why we voted Donald Trump in. That was his number one campaign issue, is to get rid of all the criminal aliens that are in the country. And the federal courts are trying to stop it. It's a judicial coup. This is what we have going on right now. I saw an MSNBC video earlier talking about Cory Booker, as a matter of fact, is introducing legislation to take the U.S. Marshal's office out from underneath the executive branch and place it under the judiciary branch. Who is trying to destroy the Constitution in this country? Who are the people that are instituting a constitutional crisis in this country? What Donald Trump is doing, for the most part, right? Like, we've got our questions. There are some things that kind of blur the line between constitutionality, and you probably shouldn't be doing that. There are a few issues, right? But most of it is on the up and up. Most of it is constitutional, clearly, plainly in the Constitution, right? Like the birthright citizenship. That one needs to be worked out. You can't just blanket say this needs to go to court, needs to be litigated. However, I think under that executive order, the Trump administration is right. The Constitution needs to be amended. The 14th Amendment needs to be amended to include that executive order, because that was never the intention of the framers of that amendment, to allow criminal aliens to come into the country just for the purpose of having a baby to anchor not only that child, but themselves to this country. And other things Donald Trump is doing, like using the Alien Enemies Act. I don't see a problem with that. You have violent criminals in this country. It is the sole responsibility of the executive branch to eliminate those threats from the country. That is what he is doing. And now the courts are trying to say, well, they need due process. What? Like, why do these people need that due process, right? Going to court, going to trial, be able to create some sort of defense as to why they should be titled a terrorist or why they should stay in the country. I don't think that's any sort of, you don't need a trial for that, right? If they came into the country illegally and they committed a crime, that's all they deserve, is to be expeditiously deported. That's it. That's all you get. That's your due process, right? If you have come into the country within 2 years, you don't get any sort of due process at all. If you want to call it due process, expedited removal. Just, that's it. You get picked up and taken out of the country quickly. That is the Constitution. And now these federal circuit judges are trying to say, no, that's not the Constitution. They need due process. They need a right to a trial. Do they? These same very people circumvented the due process to come into this country and try to become a citizen. They went around that. Why should we give them the process by which we deport these people? I just don't get the arguments to where you can make the argument that these people deserve to be in the country. Once again, if they circumvented the process by which you can legally enter this country, why should we give them this lengthy process that we give American citizens before they are removed from this country? Why? I don't get that one at all. I don't understand that. These judges are acting like these people are American citizens and they get all the same rights that you get. That's just not how it works. It's not how the world works, for crying out loud. Try this anywhere else in the world and see what happens. Do you think they're going to give you due process rights if you, I don't know, enter Japan illegally? Do you think they're going to send you to court and let you argue your case for why you should stay there? No, they're going to ship you to the United States immediately. Try that in Russia. Try that in any country that's not the European Union, for crying out loud, or the UK. Those places are just insane. They don't have borders anymore. I mean, try that in Poland, for goodness sakes. It is nuts what these people are doing, and it's just, I don't know, I find it to be insane if you ask me, but I think that's all I got. I'm rambling at this point, so I want y'all to let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. Do you think James Comey did it on purpose? Do you think there was a cover-up for Joe Biden's cancer, if you will? I think there was. I think they intentionally covered that up. But hey, that's just my opinion. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. And do me that big favor. Sign up, become a member, and help me help you guys. But that's all I got on this one. I want to thank everybody for watching. And y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.